So I'm sure by now a lot of you guys have probably seen the video of the League of Legends player that goes absolutely nuts watching a pro game in Valorant.
What is this? Look at this chat. Let's rush the bomb site. Blue wall. Raining smoke. Nami ult. Fucking, I don't know what that is. Fucking Nasus E all over the site. Incoming nukes. Nukes dropping down. Wall. Pushing over the rocket with rocket launcher flying over. Insane splash grenade. Fucking laser beam from the sky. This guy can't see anything. He sees blue. This guy sees yellow. He sees something. He's flash. This guy peeks. A kill. I can see. I can't see. This guy's casting a spell. More smokes. More rain. More lasers from the sky. Green. This guy's a dog. Sniper. And then the site's taken.
That video kind of brought to life a big problem with Valorant right now. One of the big problems that this game has is that there's just entirely too much abilities, or the abilities in the game are just way too strong. They last too long. So it just seems like the abilities to me inside of Valorant are just a little off right now. Now, when Valorant first began, the company said that the game was going to be focused on gameplay. But as they keep adding agents and trying to add these new abilities to the game, it's really changed. It's moved more away from gunplay and more towards the use of abilities. You know, wrapping people up in a cocoon for 10 seconds.
Like I never left.
Last player standing. Spike down B.
I mean, the freaking abilities in this thing. What is that? What? I can't see anything. Oh, I wrap you up in a cocoon. I pull you to me. You can't shoot. You can't fight. You can't do anything. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. All of these things hinder that gunplay inside of the game. So I do think that Valorant has a huge problem right now with their utilities, and it's something that they're going to have to seriously look at. Now, I've actually put a little bit of time and thought into different ways that they could possibly address this. As I'm saying these things, not everybody's going to agree with me, but it's obvious that there needs to be something done with abilities inside of Valorant. One of the things that I would personally do right now, every character starts off with 3 different abilities. You have your main ability, and then you have 2 other utilities to go with it. I would actually reduce that down to 2 instead of it being 3. With the first one, you would still have your main ability that would be based on class. So if you were a duelist, maybe it's movement based. If you're an initiator, maybe it's attack based. So each class would have that one main ability that would sort of be structured around whatever class it is that they belong to. The other change that I would make with the main ability is to have no more cooldowns. So you actually get 1 per round. And the reason for this is that if you only get 1 each round, you have to think a little bit more strategically about how you're using it. So for example, if I'm KO and I'm using my knife, you know, I've got a couple of different options. I could throw it out at the beginning of the round to help my team push in on a site and get information. But if my team is weaker and maybe I think that there's a chance that I have a 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3 later on, I have to decide whether or not to hold on to that knife and use it later on when that situation comes. So by having that one main ability with no cooldowns, it really causes you to have to think a lot more strategically about how you use it. The other thing I would do for the second utility is I would create a group of utilities that each player could choose from at the beginning of the round. So let's say, for example, you have flashes, smokes, grenades, Molotovs, maybe stuns. So each player would get to choose whichever one they would want from this grouping. This actually does a couple of different things. First and foremost, it creates another choice for you. You have to look at the rest of your team, figure out which one you need to choose. Maybe you are a controller, you've got a smoke as your main ability, and you look around at the rest of your team and realize nobody else has smokes. For that game, you may choose to pick a smoke as your secondary in order to help your team out. So again, it just creates that choice where you have to really think about what it is you are choosing based on the team you have and what everybody else is playing at. The other thing it would do is it would help to sort of level the playing field out a little bit. So if I had Phoenix on one side and KO on the other, both decided to pick grenades, if they threw them at each other and hit directly, it would do the exact same amount of damage. And basically what that does is that would help the development team with the balancing a little bit. You know, they don't have to go back and go, oh gosh, well, Teo's grenades are doing this, but you know, this character's grenades are doing this. We don't know which one is more powerful. By having them all sort of being chosen by every single player, it's going to make balancing them out a lot easier for the development team. And for the player, they're going to notice that as well. It's going to be more of a 50-50 rather than I'm playing against this character that's overpowered right now and I can't really win against him. So it kind of gets rid of all of that. Now, of course, the big question on all of this is, well, what about the agents? You know, because the agents are basically built with all of these special abilities that are supposed to make them unique. There is a way that you could still do this, even with what I'm talking about. First and foremost, the look of the agents overall would be just purely cosmetic. But what you could do is you could actually customize those abilities for each agent. So let's say that Sova picks Flash and KO picks Flash. For KO, he would have his normal grenade that he would throw out, but for Sova, he could still have his bow and arrow, with that arrow being a Flash. So I do think that you could still do this and yet make each character unique enough that it makes you want to try out different characters. And I think overall you could still have the agents be in the game as a cosmetic, but you could customize each one of those utilities to sort of fit the theme of whatever that character is. Now, the one big thing in all of this, though, that I have to kind of talk about is the alt ability, because I'm sure a lot of you guys are asking, well, what about the alt? To me, the alts, some of them are really overpowered compared to others. You know, if you have the ability to run and pick up a bomb and then all of a sudden show up all the way on the other side of the map, you're making the game more about the abilities and less about the gunplay. So with the alt abilities, what I would most likely do is to make them a slightly better version of the base abilities that you have. So let's say, for example, you know, you have a movement ability and you have a dash that you can do. You get this one long dash. Maybe once you get your alt, you can do 3 quick dashes back to back, or you can do one and then you have a timer that sort of counts down where you can do a second one. Basically, the alt abilities would just be a stronger version of whatever the base ability is for that character. So anyways, that's sort of my Valorant rant. Again, I've just noticed a lot of people talking about this, and so I started kind of thinking about ways that this could be fixed. So whatever they decide to do with this game, it's going to have to be something that helps them to make the game more balanced in the end, but it's also got to be concentrated more on bringing it back to that gunplay and making it less about the abilities.